You're listening to The Talent Sync. The Talent Sync is a collaborative podcast production about anything and everything recruiting and hiring. Literally the kitchen sink on how all things in talent acquisition work together, should work together, and how sometimes they don't. Now it's time to sync up with your hosts, Leah Daniels and Kevin Grossman. Today's episode talks about AI for Recruitment Basics. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, Leah. It is so great to see and hear you again, and time to talk the talent sync, right?
We're going to sync up.
We're going to sync up right now again. And it's so funny. I never get that segue right. Like I'm trying to be fun with it. And I'm like, we're going to sync up. I'm like hiccuping. It's kind of like if you've watched the SNL with Mike Myers doing Elon Musk, which is hilarious. I've seen that. He's like, buffering. Anyway, oh God, it's just so funny. It's so painfully funny, actually. Anyway, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. You don't know this, but you know that I live up in the deep north.
In the deep northeast, right?
Where, despite it being nearly mid-April, we are getting snow.
Oh, brr. Horrible. It was 70 degrees here yesterday. So.
Just stop. Okay, stop. We know. You live in paradise. We all got the memo.
Wow, snowing. Oh gosh, blessings to you. Oh my gosh.
I know. It's been a crazy week.
But it wasn't AI generated snow, it was real snow, right?
It was real snow that really fell and then it really disappeared. So that was good at least. That's just life.
Well, listen, we got a lot of fun things that we want to talk about today, but we just to kind of start off, share your AI generation story with us, please.
Oh, I have the best AI. So I have to say, and you and I have gone through this, it's called evolution. AI is a joke. I think we might be into it. Oh no, it's a joke. No, we're back into it. I don't know where it's going to land. I got super fixated recently on some data that came out around AI is improving its ability to do more complex tasks every 7 months, doubling its capacity to deliver.
I read that. I read something about that.
Yeah, on Meter. It's super interesting. Meter produced this data, and it's super interesting, right? So on one hand, I'm like, all right, this is real. And then yesterday, I was building a slide deck, and Google says to me, hey, do you want to try Gemini's brand new image generator? And I was like, sure, I need an image. Let's give it a go. So I gave it a prompt. It was a great prompt. I was like, create an iPhone. I want this to be in a text message format. I want it to say the following things. And then I wanted to give the recipient the following options. So very clear. Like there wasn't a lot of generation necessary here. Just they generate me an iPhone, basically. It produced 4 options. Not one had everything spelled correctly, and not one of them all used the same language in the text message prompt. I got something in Russian. I got something in Finnish. I got something in, I don't know, Pig Latin maybe? I'm not sure what that one was. It was beyond hysterical. And it was like my deflation of like, AI is not going to be great. And you can't even verbatim take what I just said and put it in an image.
You know, and who is this one latest news article that's flying around now? The CEO who said, if you are better than AI, then I will hire you. Who is the guy?
I don't know. The world has hope.
No, but my point is that I'm like, if this is what's happening, then I got a job for a while. So I mean, right? And by the way, you and I can poke fun at it, but I know like many of us, like you and I'm using it every day. It's been an extremely helpful tool on a lot of different levels, and I'm still underutilizing even probably what it could help me run a productivity, efficiency, all that good stuff. So you did that. And I did one where I wanted it to create, everybody's doing like this action figure rage, right? Where they're creating their action figures, posting it on LinkedIn and elsewhere. So I thought, okay. And usually I haven't been doing those things lately, but I thought I'd try it. So I found a prompt and modified it. Wanted to have fun with it and to include drumsticks and some drumming now and some other things. And the first one I did, basically I could have been a serial killer. It was pretty creepy and I wasn't smiling and I don't know.
On brand.
I'm like, wow, it's just not. So I did another one that was kind of fun. So I posted it and people are having fun with it right now on LinkedIn. But it was fun to do that. But I think, again, along those lines of what the same article we read about how it's getting 7 times better, faster, more accurate, whatever over time may be true. But there's just a lot of misconceptions and unease when you bring it back to recruiting and hiring about AI, right? We were chatting about that before we started recording about what is going on. And so I had a call this morning with one of the employers that's benchmarking this year with us, and we're just talking about the data. And what's clear every time when we're analyzing open-ended candidate comment sentiment analysis, one of the common negative themes now is that candidates truly believe that AI is selecting them out.
Oh, and they've believed this forever.
But they've always believed about automation, period, selects them out.
Something
else besides a human.
Some magic formula is reading their resume, in particular, reading their resume and deciding that they are not good enough, qualified enough, whatever and saying thank you, but no thank you.
So but you and I both know with the customers that we work with and the employers that we work with, that's not true. That's way far from the case.
I mean, my favorite quote of all time, I think I've told you this, Kevin, is Amy Miller from Yoga Yoga Pants.
Yeah.
Said on a roundtable of mine one day, my ATS cannot tell that you accidentally uploaded grandma's chicken soup recipe or your tax returns instead of your resume. I don't think we need to worry about it screening you out. Right? Because it's not screening them out.
So it's not. No. And then you've got candidates but who not only believe that, but then you've got it's still a pretty small incidence, but a rising number of candidates using AI platforms to apply, to trying to game the system. They're using generative AI to improve their resumes and cover letters. And last year in our data, it was about 10, 11%. Now it's 15+% this year so far.
And I ran a survey recently. It says it's upwards of 40%, right? So
yes. And I think, it's going to be a greater number. Over 50% of employers that benchmark with us, they're using the tool, they tell us, to help with candidate communications and job descriptions. So there's more companies doing that internally with that. But then we asked the candidates this year, are you using the AI platform to apply for jobs? And only 2% so far this year. And this is a new question that we added, that are saying that they're doing it. But then companies, multiple conversations I've had, believe that some of the spike in volume that they're seeing are fake. And there was an article that was CNBC posted that it was talking about fake job applications and fake candidates that are starting to proliferate more and more. I'm not sure it's to the volume of some of these things are indicating yet. I think it's happening. I'm not going to deny that.
I will say I actually don't understand that one. And maybe I am a little naive. I do understand the scammers who create fake jobs, and this is dangerous, right? I understand the scammers that create fake jobs.
That's definitely been happening, yes.
And that's happening, I think, at an increased volume. That's a terrifying thing. We'll put that over here for a second, come back to it. But I have yet to understand what the win and the reason you are a fake candidate. Like, what are you going to accomplish in this? Like, I never understood that.
Right. And I think it could be, also nefarious groups or individuals that are just trying to game systems and trying to muck up the works. There have already been employers that I know that I've worked the past few years that unfortunately have hired virtual employees, literally gotten to the point of hiring them to find out they were not real, and they were these individuals trying to get suck money from the company, right? There was like groups in different basements around the world.
I hadn't thought about that. All right, so they're not. That's interesting. So they are actually an entity trying to get hired
to get money,
not because they are just a spam resume for fun.
Yeah, and that's right, and that's part of it. So, and I don't know, right? And I think that there are individuals and groups that want to just be disruptive no matter what. I think you've got rogue hackers that are out there and doing these things, but I think that so there's much more of that. But the reality, and I'll tell this, if any of you that are on the market right now that are listening to this show, and especially if you've been in HR and recruiting, you already know this too, you're not being screened out by AI. It's probably 98% sure you're not being screened out. And that could change in the years to come, right? but I think right now you are not, and a much smaller group of candidates are starting to leverage AI to be serial appliers, which is not helping employers either. But I think that the volume of, I mean, it's just a bizarre market right now, right? Unemployment is still relatively low. People aren't moving jobs. You've got the crazy tariff situation that's happening, everything else, but it's not there is an increased volume of applications though. Every employer that I
there
work
is,
with,
for sure.
You've seen it too firsthand, right?
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hey everybody, Kevin Grossman here, president of Talent Board and the Candidate Experience Awards. Our 2023 Candidate Experience Benchmark Research Program will open in January and run through August 31st. To learn more on how your organization can participate, go to thetalentboard.org.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
So I don't know if I've shared this with you. We track volume of applications per open rec for a variety of companies that we work with, and it's up. I mean, volume of organic, not even like they don't even know what they're paying for. That's up, right? That's up probably 70, 80% over last year. Those are higher numbers for companies to then consume and have to process, especially when they don't have the magic AI everybody thinks they have.
No, they don't.
Right?
Or they're not utilizing those features and functionality, right? We might have touched on this before, but like the matching, filtering, ranking, bucketing. One company called it bucketing, which I actually like, but they're not doing that because that still has to take some training that you get that to work correctly over time.
Yep. I had a company say this to me last week, and it's like my favorite quote of all time so far. They're like, we're really concerned about these AI tools that rank candidates because we're pretty sure our best candidates would all get D's in their ranking. And I just giggled because what they found for their magic sauce is that their candidates have a specific look and feel about them that is not what a good candidate would look like in a standard world, right? In part because they're in construction, and part of it's kind of just how their business runs. But what's bad for you is actually good for them. And they are concerned that the training algorithms simply aren't specific enough to their business, and that throwing this thing into the middle of it will actually do more harm than do good, right? And do no harm is always the first order of business. So, and it's an interesting problem, right? It's a really interesting problem. How do you deal with this volume of candidates when, and they're not being AI generated, they are real people. Now they might be mass applying or serial applying. That I think is happening. I mean, I'm hiring right now, and half the candidates I message don't respond. Like, why are you applying if you're going to be non-responsive afterwards?
I don't think that's not a new issue either, though. I think for as long as we've had on the ability to apply online, there's always this percentage of individuals that are just spamming all the time, or for whatever reasons that they're doing it. But that's going to come. I don't know how we're going to solve for that, right? Because how do you get more? I just had this conversation earlier with another employer too. Like, how do you encourage more candidates to screen themselves out? So we were talking about three things that you can do to get candidates to feel that, listen, it's not AI, it's not automation that's screening you out. We're humans, we're recruiters. But how do you get more candidates to self-select out though, right? Because I don't know how you curb serial applying unless you put more. I mean, we've taken a lot of the obstacles away to make it much easier to apply in less than 5 minutes. But maybe there's something. There's got to be something else to be done though, right? And maybe this is where automation can help. But how do you get fewer? And even take the serial appliers out, how do you get more candidates that maybe just feel like I might be potentially qualified? How do you get more of them to self-select out to reduce those volumes?
I had this fascinating conversation on Friday with the original founder of Monster.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've never met, and so we got introduced, had a little chat, but we were sort of just spitballing, like, what could the world be if we just what if it worked more like medical residencies? Like everything available goes in, everybody available goes in. There's kind of a churning, and then matches happen. Because what's really, really striking to me is that, and you've heard me rant about this, the match algorithm for the job boards, which is the primary way most people find open opportunities, right? Either through an Indeed search, a ZipRecruiter search, LinkedIn, many of the other secondary boards, they go and they have a what and a where. They get two options. And the reality is that nobody is that singly dimensioned. Humans are complicated. And I'm not a sales rep. I'm a software sales rep in this industry, or I'm not just an analyst. Right? I'm actually a process analyst in manufacturing. Like there's so many nuances to each of these humans. And I feel like we've oversimplified the search. And so we have these opportunities for candidates that we just vomit out options to them. And they're like, they're clicking on stuff. And at some point they stop reading all of it because they're like, I don't care. Like I'm going to apply and figure it out later, see who responds. And they're actually making it the employer's problem to filter them instead of them filtering the employers. And it's because we aren't doing a good enough job presenting them with what is a real and viable opportunity for them. And I think that it's a hard problem to solve. Like, don't get me wrong, right? We've now trained an audience that what and where is all you have to do. And so if we ask for more from you, and then you get mad at us for that too. But like there is this reality of we have this tension that exists, and the job board in the middle, or the facilitator of all this information marketplace, has got a hard job. They got to fix it. And I don't know, we're 20, 30 years into this. I don't know if we're going to fix it.
And I don't see anything on the horizon and from a startup or established vendor perspective of that happening. I haven't seen or heard anything in that regard at all. I mean, I do think that helping employers better match at top of funnel, if they can really start getting and training and utilizing those features and functionality. And one company recently called it bucketing, which I liked. I mean, to then have the humans screen those buckets that, listen, these are supposedly the better matches. I mean, we've been trying to solve that matching algorithm for a long time, but you're right though. And I don't see anybody solving for that. And it's going to be more and more frustrating. I think a lot of candidates are going to be lost in the shuffle that aren't serial appliers. Ultimately, that also don't have any connections inward into the organization. So that's going to be a tough one. But I think that the incidence of the volume that we're seeing of applications, I don't think that's automated driven. I think those are people just applying for more jobs.
I think people are applying for a lot of jobs, but I think this is back to our original premise, which is the companies the companies you're talking to are feeling like there's a lot of AI, right? They feel, because the volume is coming at them, I think, right? And so it's an escape option to blame the AI generated applications, but we're seeing that's not what's happening, right? The data doesn't support that. It's just the perception, just like candidates perceive they're being screened out by magic AI. I think the other thing in all of this, Kevin, is that, we have done a very poor job educating everybody. What is AI? What is automation? Where are the lines and distinction? And I think companies in their marketing, their overzealous marketing, have been talking about, we're AI first for so long, actually, right? I remember this back in 2017, 2018, right? It was machine learning, it was big data, but the terms have changed, but the AI piece has stayed the same. And I think a lot of it isn't as AI as we've led recruiting teams to believe.
Correct. Yeah, there is definitely. And now we're kind of this is the year of AI agents in recruiting technology, right? There's been a lot of releases. Hire Easy was one of the last ones that I saw, and many others. And again, I haven't, in full transparency, I haven't demoed these. I haven't seen some of these. I've read about them, but I think that it's kind of like we're still kind of in this gold rush, but I don't know. There's just not a lot of gold right now, right? Not really. And I think one of the things that is, when we talked about this before we started the podcast, the recruiter experience as well as the hiring manager experience. And ultimately, everything that's process oriented, that's human focused, that's part of your tech stack, everything is about the final outcomes of the hires. Everything needs to point to that, right? That's why we have HR and recruiting teams to recruit and hire and find those individuals. Those are the ultimate outcomes. And that means there's a lot of folks that aren't going to be in those outcomes from a candidate perspective. And I think we're just going to continue to see more and more frustration. By the way, it was Shopify that was the company that basically said that if you can't do it better than AI, I'm not hiring you. And again, and there's more to it than that, of course, that they basically the push was really, that was the headline. The push was more about, you've got to be able to leverage AI to be a good human employee at our organization.
Time for a Talent Sync break.
Hi, Talent Sync listeners. I just wanted to share a bit about JobSync with you all. JobSync helps companies get more quality candidates out of their job board advertising and automates a variety of manual recruitment tasks by solving for the very low conversion rate challenges most companies experience on their career site. JobSync integrates your entire application, including all of your questions, directly into the various job boards' quick apply processes, providing you with fully completed applications directly into your ATS and resulting in 2 to 5 times more candidates while dropping your cost per application by half. This helps return up to 10 hours a week back into your recruiter's time through custom automations that are based on your business-specific recruiting processes. JobSync works with most major ATSs like Workday, SuccessFactors, and Taleo, CRMs, programmatic platforms, and job boards like Indeed and Zip. You can check out jobsync.com to learn more.
Break time's over. Now back to the Talent Sync.
I will say they are generally ahead in a lot of these things. It's interesting. Their hiring culture. Yeah. Shopify. They do paired coding. So their developers don't get to just sit there by themselves with their headphone and type away and do the thing. They have another person who is actively coding with them on the same machine, not next to each other, but like connected, magic internet connections. And for them, if you don't code a solution in an hour, you throw out the code, you start over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they believe in the elegance of some simple code, right? And that you don't need to overly engineer your code. It makes it really hard to then build. So when they looked at, because I heard a really long podcast on this, they look at AI, they recognize that AI is really good to help their developers, even as they're doing paired coding, right? It can help solve problems and add like almost like a third voice. Now they're already used to having 2 voices in their coding process, so this third voice isn't so awkward for them, I think, where a lot of organizations, I think there's a lot of pride that comes along with their coding. And if you were told after spending 4 hours building something to throw it away and do it again so that you build it in an hour, you'd have like a really hard time with that. I think as an organization, they're going to actually do a better job at adopting these kinds of things, which actually gives us a good question, right? So when you look at your process in recruiting, right, what is it a reasonable amount of time for your recruiters to be able to screen candidates? What's reasonable, right? Are we thinking about as businesses how to load balance what comes in to what our recruiters can actually handle? And I think no one's actually solving that problem yet either.
No, that's another thing too. So do you think that when we talk again about where we're at with AI and recruiting technologies today, and with all of the AI agents that a lot of these vendors are releasing, what I worry about is that I think adoption's already been kind of not as great as what is being conveyed. I mean, is this something that recruiting, TA leaders, are they going to, especially at the mid-sized to large global enterprise level, right, where they have more resources, even in today's market, they have still bigger teams. Are they going to adopt these?
So I think they're mandated to. I think this is happening. I think what's super interesting is that there's disconnects all along this pathway, right? But one of the big disconnects is leadership at the top saying, adopt these, push it down. Then you've got a bunch of people who, I mean, as you know this, recruiting teams are really interesting people, but most of them are not highly technical. That isn't usually one of the skills you're hiring for in your recruiting team. Even if your HRIS team isn't really hired for their technical capabilities, they're not really there to evaluate the technical capabilities of something, right? So they are looking at these solutions. They're being told, oh, this is very AI. And then you find out maybe it's not as AI as I got sold. And so we also are dealing with that, right? We're dealing with a market of maybe not so AI as I thought it was. So I've been mandated to bring in AI. I brought in AI, but it wasn't actually AI. So now what do I do? But now I think it's AI, and I've adopted this highly manual, non-AI process. What do I do now? Did I actually satisfy the mandate, or have I not? And more importantly, and what you started with earlier is, and what's the outcome for the business? I don't actually care. Is it AI? Is it automation? Is it magic? I don't care.
I want more magic, Leah.
More magic,
want
more,
more
more
magic.
glitter, everybody,
I want
more glitter.
and magic.
That
That's
will
what I
solve
want.
all our problems.
Absolutely.
But what's the outcome,
Yeah.
right? Am I hiring faster? Am I hiring better? Am I lowering my cost basis because I've removed travel nursing as part of my line items, or overtime is no longer part of what I have to account for? Can I change out a manual process for an automated process, right? Those are the outcomes that we've got to start looking at and saying, are we actually satisfying the outcome regardless if it's AI, automation, or magic? Those are the three choices now.
They are, and you're right about even with the disconnects. I would have to argue, and some of those companies, again, the much larger global multinational companies, the very complex enterprises, even some of those that I've worked with and continue to work with, they are trying to solve that now. I mean, I have had those discussions with them, and not only is it a mandate, but they also know it's an imperative that it goes back to being able to fully optimize the tech stack they have. Number one, to better work for them at the end of the day. So those things are happening, but man, when besides the misconceptions that we're seeing, that we started this conversation on right now, there's also, kind of maybe going to wrap up on a positive note. There's a lot of positive from this about potentially making, like you just said, faster, better hiring outcomes at the end of the day for recruiting and hiring teams, better leveraging this technology that is still not quite in its infancy, but it's still a toddler in many ways, right? That's going to advance pretty quickly, but they got to be able to use it and leverage it in that regard. And I just don't know, like, just to bring it back to candidates believing that AI is selecting them out. And this person asked me this morning, well, what do we tell the candidates? I'm like, well, you're not going to put up a neon sign saying we're human screening you. But they have it on their career site what the recruiting process is. And that includes our recruiting team reviewing and screening your resumes that come in and your applications. I mean, you can say that in some candidate communications and try to and do that a little bit.
That's a great idea, Kevin. I've not seen anyone do that. No, I've not seen it.
They're not quite doing it, but I've started having the conversations with companies that are asking like what, and it's being talked about. I haven't seen it yet. I bet you there are. So I should ask my Candy community if anybody's doing that yet, just without being overly blatant about it. But like, listen, we are humans screening you, and we want to thank you for your time, but we're not going to pursue you at this point. So
even thank you for applying. We're very excited that you're interested in working with us, and please be patient as we review all of the applications as they come in. We are a team of humans doing our best. Maybe don't say that part, but do you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot we can do with the communication piece. I still laugh to this day that occasionally I'll work with a company who does use one particular applicant tracking system who's not going to get named. We're not naming and shaming.
I know we don't do that. We don't do that here.
But I'm going to name and shame this part. They do send their candidate communications from do not reply at invalid email.
Yeah, that's always been a long time thing.
That right there, right? That tells you everything about that company. They're definitely not using AI to screen you out. But the communication, how you communicate is important. You always harp on this. But also making sure that communication is more than just thanks for applying.
It is. And I think ultimately that it's going to be messy for a long time to come, because again, I don't think anybody out there in the market that I'm aware of is really trying to solve it for this. But what I've been recommending to organizations when it comes to the candidate experience journey, where you really have probably the most impact with individuals, is when you actually start screening and interviewing them, because then it is more human interaction, even at the hourly level to the management level. And that's where you could leave a bigger, potentially positive, fair impact on them than you would at the point of application with somebody that's not qualified and you're going to send them a rejection. Even if you told them, I am a human that reviewed it, thanks so much for your time, but we're going to pass.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't believe you.
They're not going to believe you still, but that's just the nature of it. But until we solve for those bigger issues, and better, all of us better use AI for good in recruiting and hiring, and understand the misconceptions of how it's actually being applied today. I think that it's there's a lot to solve for that's just not being solved for.
And I think the big takeaway for me in all of this is everyone in the recruiting and hiring space has got to become a student of not just what is AI, but these tools, right? So we started with my image generation, which was highly comical. And so as one does, I gave up on poor Gemini.
Right.
And went to our friends at GPT-4 and said, what can you do with this? And I will tell you, it did a much better job. It mostly followed the instructions. In fact, it generated a little bit, but it was like positive generation. It added an image for me to use, which I loved because I was asking about a banquet manager position was what I had picked. So it gave me this beautiful image of tables with place settings and wine glasses that had no stems. So they were floating. But that part aside, it did a much better job, right? And so being a student of all of this is partly understanding that there are lots of different manifestations of this idea of an AI or a GPT, and that you can't just look at a solution or a product or a interface and say, well, this is what AI is, because actually it's not, right? It's really about right tool, right time, going to the tool belt and say, oh, I guess a wrench wasn't quite right. Maybe I should use a hammer, right? And I think that's the takeaway here in all of this is making sure that the tools and tech and how we do it can vary based on all of the other extenuating circumstances.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Leah, as always, it's always great to sync up with you on the Talent Sync.
Good. That was good.
See, that was better. I flowed that one. That one was
I do feel like we might have thrown the kitchen sink in here this time.
We did. Well, we did, but it was still all interrelated though, right? It was a good discussion, and I hope folks get something out of it. And as always, everybody, make sure to download and listen and give us feedback if you've got it. And we totally appreciate you listening in. And Leah, as usual, it's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you for listening to the Talent Sync podcast, a Candy Benchmark research program and Job Sync collaboration. More episodes soon. Subscribe via your favorite podcast player today.